News Face the Nation in 60 seconds. True story. A Seattle man went to bed with nearly $300,000 in his bank account. By morning, the money had vanished because of some identity thief. Can you imagine? What if some thief got to your life savings? Look, no one can stop all identity theft, but here's what I did. I armed my bank and retirement accounts with LifeLock Ultimate Plus. Yep, LifeLock's best just got better. LifeLock Ultimate Plus is the most comprehensive identity theft protection available, helping protect your identity, your bank and retirement accounts, credit cards, even the equity in your home. How many other ID theft protection services do that? Zero. So why risk it? Do what I did. Get LifeLock Ultimate Plus and sleep easier knowing if a thief goes after your identity or life savings, LifeLock's on it. Visit LifeLock.com now and enter promo code Gordon or call and mention Gordon to save 10% on your LifeLock Ultimate Plus membership. 800-916-7170. That's 800-916-7170. 800-916-7170. Network does not cover all transactions.
I'm Bob Schieffer, and today on Face the Nation, the world chooses Paris. 1 million people have turned out on the streets of Paris, and they're being joined by leaders from around the world to show support for the victims of the deadly terror attacks. We'll talk to Attorney General Eric Holder, who is also in Paris, the chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee, Michael McCaul, Texas Senator John Cornyn, and our correspondents in France and Washington. Good morning. As the crowds gathered today, a new video of one of the now dead terrorists pledging allegiance to ISIS has also surfaced. We begin with CBS News correspondent Elizabeth Palmer, who has been on this story from the start. Liz?
Good morning, Bob. Well, huge crowds are starting to gather. The organizers say as many as 1 million people may march today in defense of freedom of speech, along with politicians from the UK, from France, from Germany, and also from Turkey, from Israel, and from Palestine. You mentioned the video that's just surfaced made by Amedy Coulibaly. He's the man who took the hostages Friday in the kosher supermarket. He pledges allegiance to ISIS, although there's no evidence he actually ever wanted to go and fight with them. However, his girlfriend, Hayat Boumediene, who the French police say is a suspect also in the terrorist attacks, does appear to have slipped away into ISIS territory. The Turkish authorities are saying that she crossed the border into Syria on the 2nd of January. Another thing that Coulibaly underlines in the video is that he coordinated his attack with the attack of the Kouachi brothers, who are suspects in the killings of all the people at the satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo. French politicians have been calling for unity universally. France has the largest Muslim population in Europe and a very ethnically diverse society, and they are desperate to avoid a violent backlash. There is extra security everywhere, including paratroopers on the streets of Paris. But you can just imagine how stressed the French police must be today. They've just had a very violent and difficult week, and now they have to ensure the security of as many as 1 million people walking in public, along with celebrated and controversial politicians.
And we turn now to Attorney General Eric Holder. He is also in Paris this morning. He has just finished a meeting with his law enforcement counterparts from around the world. General Holder, thank you for joining us. Did you get any new information on this attack during these meetings there?
Well, the purpose of the meetings was obviously to express our condolences and then also to pledge our solidarity with the French people. A pledge was made to do a better job of sharing information amongst the nations that were there, and I think we will in fact do that. The president has announced that on February the 18th we will host a summit in Washington, D.C. I announced that at the meeting so that we can come up with a way in which we can deal with the root causes of this. Countering violent extremism is what we call it. We can deal with the root causes of what it is that attracts these young men to these really negative ideological groups.
General Holder, does this attack signal that the war on terror is entered kind of a new phase where we're dealing with these homegrown terrorists who go to other places, get training, then come back to their home country and carry out these attacks?
Oh, I think we have been in that phase for some time, Bob. I think the decimation of core al-Qaeda has probably reduced, if not eliminated, the ability of al-Qaeda to do the kind of thing that they did on September the 11th. On the other hand, al-Qaeda affiliates like al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula has moved what they do to smaller kinds of attacks. They have inspired people negatively around the world to engage in these really small attacks that involve only one or two people, a small number of arms, that can have a devastating impact, as we have seen in France. But we have been in this phase of the fight against terrorism for some time.
Does this mean that the danger, the threat of attacks like this in this country is greater now in the United States?
I wouldn't say it is greater, but I certainly think that the possibility of such attacks exists in the United States. It is something that we worry about all the time. It is something that we meet about all the time. It's something that, frankly, keeps me up at night, worrying about the lone wolf, or a group of people, a very small group of people who decide to get arms on their own and do what we saw in France this week. It's the kind of thing that our government is focused on and doing all that we can in conjunction with our state and local counterparts to try to make sure it does not happen.
Well, there are reports that the Algerians warned the French authorities that something like this might happen. Do you have any information on that?
Well, this is something that will have to be part of an analysis of the whole incident, as we do in the United States when something happens like that in our country, or when we disrupt a plot. We always look to see if there are ways in which we might have done something differently, and I'm sure that our French counterparts will be doing that as well, looking to see if there were things that they missed that might have prevented this from happening, and we will be sharing with them all the information that we have to help them in that analysis.
How many of these so-called homegrown terrorists do we think are in the United States right now, General Holder? And are we monitoring all of them? Are we confident we know who they are and where they are?
Well, I think that we are certainly doing, a good job in monitoring those people. And when I say monitoring, I mean monitoring in an appropriate way, using legitimate tools. We're not stereotyping anybody, but we are focused on those people who we have some reason to believe might engage in these kinds of activities. And I think that our FBI, in conjunction with our intelligence community and in conjunction with our state and local partners, I think we do a good job in keeping abreast of what these people are talking about and potentially what it is that they are planning.
General Holder, on another subject, the New York Times reported, and we have confirmed through our own sources at the Justice Department, that the FBI and federal prosecutors want to bring charges against former CIA Director David Petraeus for passing classified information to his then-girlfriend. We're told that you will make the final decision. Will you make that decision, or will you leave that to your predecessor?
Well, at this point, I don't want to comment on that, which is an ongoing investigation. The determination in any case is made at the time that all of the evidence has been acquired, all of the evidence has been reviewed, when it has been gone over with people who are the subjects of the investigation and with their lawyers. And so at the appropriate time, the proper people within the Justice Department will make determinations as to what, if any, action should occur.
Well, will that proper person be you, or will it be someone else?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, in terms of timing, I will be in office until my successor is confirmed. But I would expect that to the extent that there is a matter of this magnitude, that would be decided at the highest levels of the Justice Department.
All right. Well, General Holder, thank you for joining us this morning. And for more on this now, we're joined by Mike Morrell, the former Deputy Director of the CIA, now a CBS News Senior Security Contributor, and John Miller, who used to be at CBS News and is now the Deputy Commissioner for Intelligence and Counterterrorism for the New York Police Department. Gentlemen, thank you. Mike, to you first. Al-Qaeda in Yemen is now claiming responsibility for the first of these attacks. What do you make of that?
I can't remember a time, Bob, when Al-Qaeda in Yemen took responsibility for an attack and that turned out to be wrong. So I take the claim of responsibility, the claim that they directed this attack, very seriously. We don't know what direction means. It could simply be having told these two individuals who went to Yemen and trained to go back and attack this particular media outlet. It could have been more than that. We'll have to wait and see. But I do think Al-Qaeda was in part responsible for this. I do think that says something very, very important about all this. We've been focused on ISIS for the last 9 months to 12 months. This is a reminder that Al-Qaeda is still very dangerous and is still a very significant threat to the West, Western Europe, and the United States.
John Miller, the Attorney General touched on this, but what is it that is attracting people from these countries like France, some from the United States, other parts of Europe, to go to these Middle Eastern countries to get this training and then to come back with this sort of thing on their mind? What is this that's going on here?
You know, Bob, I think it's a couple of things. One, it's over the more than a decade since 9/11, the basic maturing of the ideology, but it's the delivery system that's made the real difference. They are putting out products on video, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, but particularly their videos. They're constructing messaging that rivals the ability of Madison Avenue in terms of packaging, in terms of being compelling, in terms of touching emotions. And frankly, in terms of constructing the story with a cleverly arranged set of facts that leaves out anything inconvenient. But the core message is, come fight here with us. The second part of the message, which is a threat to places like Paris and London and New York, is if you can't fight here in Syria, get what weapons you can get your hands on. Don't reinvent the wheel and fight there.
Well, what about the possibility that this attack in France makes it more likely that we may see some sort of an attack like this in the United States? What are you doing at the NYPD now?
Well, we're on a heightened security posture on a normal day compared to almost any other police department. With the amount of resources that we field in counterterrorism missions every day, that's more than 1,000 police officers and civilian analysts who are pointed at the counterterrorism mission every day. But when we see an event like France, we look at that threat stream, we look at what they did, we look at how they did it, we look at the target selection, and that becomes part of the overlay. So that's part of day-to-day business, but I don't think that we are under any more threat, and I have to underline, as Mike would tell you, or any less threat than we were the day before. There is a piece of this, as when you see a school shooting or a workplace violence thing, it doesn't start somebody who wasn't thinking about doing something like this down the road of doing it, but what it does is, and I think we saw a piece of this in Paris, it takes that person who's already thinking about it, already planning it, and may accelerate them.
One of the things that's sort of worrisome here, Mike, is that reports that the Algerian